Psalm 106, 1 through 48. Devotional focus verse. Our fathers understood not thy wonders in Egypt. They remembered not the multitude of thy mercies, but provoked him at the sea, even at the Red Sea. Nevertheless, he saved them for his name's sake, that he might make his mighty power to be known. Psalm 106, 7 through 8. Just as God was merciful to Israel in spite of the people's repeated rebellion, he continues to call individuals who resist him. Jim Parr was one who experienced God's mercy in that regard. He often related that he was the wayward one in his family. He would testify, "I was a slave to a life of sin for years, the terror of the community where I was brought up, a drunken miner in England, Scotland, and Wales. On Sundays, you would find me gambling and drinking, trying to numb the pain inside. Jail bars failed to reform me. I even meditated upon committing suicide, but fear of God's judgment stopped me from taking my own life. Many times I nearly went into a devil's hell when the mines where I was working would fall in, but I would just blaspheme God's name." I was in Wales during the Welsh revival from 1904 to 1906, where 100,000 people were converted in about 2 years, and witnessed people being converted all around me. Some of those people had been my drinking companions. They had prayer meetings 1,500 feet down in the mines, but I would curse and swear and have nothing to do with them. At the same time, there was something in my heart that was hungering for reality. One Sunday night, I decided to attend a church where a Welsh man, Evan Roberts, was holding a revival meeting. The church was packed, so I went across the street to a Salvation Army service. God was talking to me, and he put life and death before me. However, I deliberately stepped out of that place without yielding. The next day, 3 of us went shooting in the mountains. As I was firing a gun, it broke apart and shot my hand all to pieces. It was only the mercy of God that I was not killed, but I was in awful shape for about 3 months. I figured it was God's judgment upon me because I did not yield my heart to him. I made a vow during that time, saying, "God, if you will spare my life, I will surrender to you." However, I did not keep that vow. After a couple of years, I decided to come to America. I worked in several places, and then God, in his mercy, permitted me to take work at a coal mining camp in Harrisburg, Illinois. One evening, as I came out of the mines, I met a couple of Welshmen who invited me to a revival service. As I sat in the back of that meeting hall, God spoke to my soul. I was polluted by the powers of hell and diseased from the crown of my head to the soles of my feet, but thank God a lifeline was thrown out. At the close of that service, I walked up the aisle and dropped on my knees. There, I made an unconditional surrender. God blotted out my sins and came into my life. He rescued my hell-deserving soul from a life of defeat, healed my body, and made me a new creature. From the bottom of my heart, I thank him that he had mercy on my hell-bound soul. Psalm 106 is a sad record of how Israel remembered not the multitude of God's mercies toward them, but rebelled against him. Jim Parr also spurned God's mercy for a time. However, in both cases, God continued to extend mercy, that he might make his mighty power to be known. For thousands of years now, the Bible has made known the account of God's faithfulness to Israel. Jim Parr became a pioneer minister in the Apostolic Faith organization shortly after its founding in 1906, and testified until his death in 1949 of God's faithfulness to him. Today, God's mercy is still extended. The path to God is still the same, regardless of the past or what amount of spiritual light one has. If we have experienced God's love and forgiveness, our part is to continue to make his mighty power known and encourage others to respond to him. Background information. Psalm 106. Psalm 106 is the closing psalm in Book 4, a section which began with Psalm 90. This psalm begins in a similar manner as Psalms 105 and 107. The words, "O give thanks unto the Lord," appear in the first verse of each. The three psalms are also similar in that each contains historical accounts of Israel. Psalm 106 offers a counterpart to Psalm 105. Whereas the previous psalm spoke of God's faithfulness in keeping his covenant with Abraham's descendants, this psalm tells how the Jewish people broke their side of the covenant agreement through repeated disobedience and unbelief. No author is cited, but the opening and closing verses of this psalm may indicate that it was written from exile by someone looking forward to the day when God would return his people to their land. The psalm is classified as a personal lament. While Israel's sins are recounted, a recurring note throughout the psalm is the enduring mercy of the Lord. Psalm 106 opens with a call to worship and a personal plea by the psalmist. See verses 1 through 5. The main body of the psalm details 7 instances when Israel rebelled against God. See verses 6 through 39. Their murmuring at the Red Sea, complaining about God's provision, insurrection against their God-appointed leaders, worship of the golden calf, unbelief and disobedience when the spies gave the report of Canaan, joining the heathen in idolatry, and unbelief at the waters of strife, or Meribah. The psalm concludes with a review of God's repeated judgments and his great mercy, and a closing prayer and doxology. See verses 47 through 48. Conclusion. God's great mercy toward Israel in spite of their repeated rebellion is also apparent when he continues to deal with those who resist his call to salvation.
Psalm 106. Praise ye the Lord. O give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endureth forever. Who can utter the mighty acts of the Lord? Who can show forth all his praise? Blessed are they that keep judgment, and he that doeth righteousness at all times. Remember me, O Lord, with the favor that thou bearest unto thy people, O visit me with thy salvation. That I may see the good of thy chosen, that I may rejoice in the gladness of thy nation, that I may glory with thine inheritance. We have sinned with our fathers, we have committed iniquity, we have done wickedly. Our fathers understood not thy wonders in Egypt, they remembered not the multitude of thy mercies, but provoked him at the sea, even at the Red Sea. Nevertheless he saved them for his name's sake, that he might make his mighty power to be known. He rebuked the Red Sea also, and it was dried up, so he led them through the depths, as through the wilderness. And he saved them from the hand of him that hated them, and redeemed them from the hand of the enemy. And the waters covered their enemies, there was not one of them left. Then believed they his words, they sang his praise. They soon forgat his works, they waited not for his counsel. But lusted exceedingly in the wilderness, and tempted God in the desert. And he gave them their request, but sent leanness into their soul. They envied Moses also in the camp, and Aaron the saint of the Lord. The earth opened and swallowed up Dathan and covered the company of Abiram. And a fire was kindled in their company, the flame burned up the wicked. They made a calf in Horeb, and worshipped the molten image. Thus they changed their glory into the similitude of an ox that eateth grass. They forgat God their Saviour, which had done great things in Egypt. Wondrous works in the land of Ham, and terrible things by the Red Sea. Therefore he said that he would destroy them, had not Moses his chosen stood before him in the breach, to turn away his wrath, lest he should destroy them. Yea, they despised the pleasant land, they believed not his word. But murmured in their tents, and hearkened not unto the voice of the Lord. Therefore he lifted up his hand against them, to overthrow them in the wilderness. To overthrow their seed also among the nations, and to scatter them in the lands. They joined themselves also unto Baal-peor, and ate the sacrifices of the dead. Thus they provoked him to anger with their inventions, and the plague brake in upon them. Then stood up Phinehas, and executed judgment, and so the plague was stayed. And that was counted unto him for righteousness unto all generations for evermore. They angered him also at the waters of strife, so that it went ill with Moses for their sakes. Because they provoked his spirit, so that he spake unadvisedly with his lips. They did not destroy the nations, concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen, and learned their works. And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them. Yea, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils, and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and of their daughters, whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan, and the land was polluted with blood. Thus were they defiled with their own works, and went a-whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of the Lord kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred his own inheritance. And he gave them into the hand of the heathen, and they that hated them ruled over them. Their enemies also oppressed them, and they were brought into subjection under their hand. Many times did he deliver them, but they provoked him with their counsel, and were brought low for their iniquity. Nevertheless he regarded their affliction, when he heard their cry. And he remembered for them his covenant, and repented according to the multitude of his mercies. He made them also to be pitied of all those that carried them captives. Save us, O Lord our God, and gather us from among the heathen, to give thanks unto thy holy name, and to triumph in thy praise. Blessed be the Lord God of Israel from everlasting to everlasting, and let all the people say, Amen. Praise ye the Lord.